Chapter 1. The Island of Stone Money. From 1899 to 1919, the Caroline Islands in Micronesia were a German colony. The most westerly of the group is the island of Wap, or Yap, which at the time had a population of between 5,000 and 6,000. In 1903, an American anthropologist named William Henry Furness III spent several months on the island and wrote a fascinating book about the habits and customs of its inhabitants. He was particularly impressed by the islanders' monetary system, and accordingly he gave his book the title I have given this chapter, The Island of Stone Money. As their island yields no metal, they have had recourse to stone. Stone, on which labour in fetching and fashioning has been expended, is as truly a representation of labour as the mined and minted coins of civilization. Their medium of exchange they call fei, and it consists of large, solid, thick stone wheels, ranging in diameter from a foot to 12 feet, having in the centre a hole varying in size with the diameter of the stone, wherein a pole may be inserted sufficiently large and strong to bear the weight and facilitate transportation. These stone coins were made from limestone found on an island some 400 miles distant. They were originally quarried and shaped on that island, and the product brought to Wap by some venturesome native navigators in canoes and on rafts. A noteworthy feature of this stone currency is that it is not necessary for its owner to reduce it to possession. After concluding a bargain which involves the price of a fei too large to be conveniently moved, its new owner is quite content to accept the bare acknowledgment of ownership, and without so much as a mark to indicate the exchange, the coin remains undisturbed on the former owner's premises. My faithful old friend Fatumak assured me that there was, in the village nearby, a family whose wealth was unquestioned, acknowledged by everyone, and yet no one, not even the family itself, had ever laid eye or hand on this wealth. It consisted of an enormous fei, whereof the size is known only by tradition. For the past 2 or 3 generations it had been, and at that very time it was, lying at the bottom of the sea. Many years ago an ancestor of this family, on an expedition after fei, secured this remarkably large and exceedingly valuable stone, which was placed on a raft to be towed homeward. A violent storm arose, and the party, to save their lives, were obliged to cut the raft adrift, and the stone sank out of sight. When they reached home, they all testified that the fei was of magnificent proportions and of extraordinary quality, and that it was lost through no fault of the owner. Thereupon it was universally conceded in their simple faith that the mere accident of its loss overboard was too trifling to mention, and that a few 100 feet of water offshore ought not to affect its marketable value, since it was all chipped out in proper form. The purchasing power of that stone remains therefore as valid as if it were leaning visibly against the side of the owner's house. There are no wheeled vehicles on Wap, and consequently no cart roads, but there have always been clearly defined paths communicating with the different settlements. When the German government assumed the ownership of the Caroline Islands after the purchase of them from Spain in 1898, many of these paths or highways were in bad condition, and the chiefs of the several districts were told that they must have them repaired and put in good order. The roughly dressed blocks of coral were, however, quite good enough for the bare feet of the natives, and many were the repetitions of the command which still remained unheeded. At last it was decided to impose a fine for disobedience on the chiefs of the districts. In what shape was the fine to be levied? At last, by a happy thought, the fine was exacted by sending a man to every Failu and Pabai throughout the disobedient districts, where he simply marked a certain number of the most valuable fei with a cross in black paint to show that the stones were claimed by the government. This instantly worked like a charm. The people, thus dolefully impoverished, turned to and repaired the highways to such good effect from one end of the island to the other that they are now like park drives. Then the government dispatched its agents and erased the crosses. Presto, the fine was paid, the happy Failus resumed possession of their capital stock and rolled in wealth.